Hey guys, it's Amelia, but not the pilot, just Amelia, and I am here to do my December reading wrap-up. Let's get into it. I read so much in December because I'm unemployed and I'm home. So, let's talk about it. As usual, I think I'm going to start with the audiobooks and then go into the books because that's just how my brain works. I feel like I have less to say about the audiobooks, usually because they're like memoirs or nonfiction, or I'm rereading them. So, first off, I reread Sea of Monsters in preparation for the new Percy Jackson show, and I forgot how much I liked Sea of Monster. I feel like I have reread all the Percy Jacksons sort of recently, I guess, like, within the past 5 years. But, like, in my head, I always feel like Sea of Monsters is, like, the second one, it's, like, okay. But I really enjoyed it. Also, the TV show so far has been so exciting and interesting. It's not a perfect recreation, shot for shot, everything directly from the books, from my brain onto a screen. So I'm a little disappointed in moments. Of course. It wouldn't be perfect. But it is really good. I'm really liking the changes they made. I really like the character adjustments, arcs that are happening. It's been fun. It's been so fun. And what I'm really excited about is because I think season 1 was really lacking just comedy in general, where the Percy Jackson books are so freaking funny. And I think season 2 has really committed to the bit, and they're giving me what I want, which is sassy Percy Jackson at all times, saying little comedy bits. So I'm having a great time. I am laughing, I am giggling, I am tee-heeing. So the TV show is doing great, and Sea Monster is also good. I've also just finished reading Mark of Athena because I'm reading it alongside the Newest Olympian podcast, which is a podcast by a grown adult man who's never read Percy Jackson before, and so he's reading the books for the first time and giving his opinions and thoughts and trying to predict what happens. I think it's such a fun way to revisit the series since I read them so young and they were so enjoyable for me, but now they hold such a nostalgic quality that, like, are they even good? I don't know. Because personally to me, I think they're brilliant, but also, like, I read them when I was, like, 10, and so I was obsessed with them. So it's nice to read or hear from a person who is a grown adult man who has no connection to these books, reading them and, like, truly enjoying them. And just hearing his takes and his, like, first-time thoughts, and it's been really fun. And he's also bringing a lot of insider information because now he's in that Percy Jackson sphere, so he gets to interview the art directors and Rick Riordan himself and the different cast members, so it's been very fun. But those are my only 2 rereads for the month, so let's get into it! So, I read Where There's Room for Us, which is I forgot her name, but she is a Disney Channel or Nickelodeon child star who has now written this novel. I sort of thought this was a memoir. Girl, like, why do I consistently keep having this problem? I never read descriptions for books, that's why. I just saw that she had written it, and so I was like, okay, cool, word. Let's take a look. And one of my friends actually recommended it to me, so I listened to it as an audiobook, and I thought it was interesting because they had 2 different people reading the different characters. So I think she read the American character, and then they had a British actress doing the other character. Actually, it was Jemima Kirk, wasn't it? Who's, like, half American, half British, I think. Anyway, it's sapphic. It's Bridgerton-esque sort of story set in the English countryside between these 2 young girls who live in neighboring manors, and what will happen? I thought it was interesting. I thought it was cute. The audiobook was really interesting because it was almost done sort of like a audio play where they have, like, little noises in it. So, like, if they were in a carriage, there was, like, clip-clap noises. If they're at a ball, there's, like, light violin music in the background, which to me I find sort of annoying sometimes, but I thought it was cute. The story overall was fine. Just like a generic sort of YA story. It was cute, it was good. Not what I was expecting, because I was expecting a memoir, but that's my own fault. But I did also read different Disney Channel stars' memoir this year. I listened to the Semi-Well-Adjusted Despite Literally Everything memoir by Alison Stoner. What a crazy life. It's also, I will say, this book had so many triggers in it, so read the trigger warnings before you read this book. I thought it was really interesting. I think they've had such a crazy life, and I love getting these little inside tidbits about, like, what it's truly like to be a star and how it's not all that. But I also love learning about these people as, like, real people. I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but when I think of these Disney Channel stars, I think of them in that era, and, like, I grew up with them on TV, so, like, I don't think they have personalities outside of the TV show. I know this is not true. Don't get me wrong. I realize they're playing characters on TV, but also in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, like, that's Sam from iCarly, or, like, that's Allison Stoner from Camp Rock. Like, I think of them as their character, and obviously they are not their character. But I just think it's always interesting to hear what was going on behind the scenes of these famous movies that I grew up with. I also didn't realize Allison Stoner had such a, like, prolific career, I guess, and how they got started and everything like that, because I had zero clue they started in a Missy Elliott dance music video. I had no idea. Literally, that was not on my radar. And I also think it's interesting to me that Allison Stoner is, like, household name. Like, I know who they are, but, like, the only thing that I think I ever watched they were in was Camp Rock. Like, I never watched the Mike's Super Short Show, I don't think. Although I guess it was commercial break, so I must have seen them on that. Dude, I don't know. Anyway, so I just thought it was really interesting. I know there's a lot of, like, movies and stuff that they talked about auditioning for that I was like, that's crazy to think that maybe they could have been in that movie. I don't want to spoil what it is. But anyway, I found this really interesting. Touches a lot of important subjects, and I think Allison Stoner's doing such a cool thing with their career now. They've now, like, fully pivoted and gone towards I think they got a psychology degree, and they are now doing this whole thing. They basically invented a job in the entertainment industry that should have existed but hasn't, where they are now someone you could hire, sort of like intimacy coordinators, how you, like, hire those to help with intimate scenes on TV and movies, which, like, wasn't really a job that existed maybe 10 years ago. They have created this role that's for helping child stars mainly, but also all stars in general, with, like, mental health issues and just, like, general health on set. Completely. Like, having better communication between directors and actors so that when the director calls cut, they explain why they're calling cut, and they're not just like, so you're not maybe anxiety spiraling about, like, oh, I messed that scene up. It's like, no, they're calling cut because something happened with the camera, and that's why we're sitting and waiting. It's not because you did something wrong. And I just think that's such an interesting thing that I've never even considered being a problem as a person on a set. Like, I've just never even thought of that. But yeah, Allison Stoner, like, created this position and is, like, helping child stars experience stardom better, hopefully, which I think is very fun. Next, a little Christmassy one. I listened to Christmas with Anne, which is an Anne of Green Gables Christmas short story collection. I read a lot of short stories around this time of year. I think it's just because I don't want to, like, commit to a real book since there's so much going on, but also I just, like, don't have the attention span for it, and also sometimes I'm trying to reach my end of the year goal. So I read Christmas with Anne. It's very cute. Each story in it, I want to say there's, like, 5 of them, it's very short, is a different character in, like, Anne of Green Gables neighborhood. It was fine. It's cute. I sort of feel like some of them were repeats. Like, I feel like they were in the other Anne books, but I'm not really sure if that's true, and I did not look it up, so I don't know. Next, I read But What If We're Wrong, which I had seen this book probably 10 years ago on the shelf and impulse bought it. And so I own this book, but I never get around to it because I don't like reading nonfiction. And so I finally was like, okay, let's do the audiobook of this. Let's see what it's about. Because the concept is, but what if we're wrong? And that's the whole book, is about thinking about the future like it's the past. And think about the present like it's the past. And, like, what things that we say right now are set in stone, this is what it is, might be proved wrong in the future. What if right now we say the sky is blue? In the future they're gonna be like, the sky's actually not blue, it's green, and here's why. Like, things like that. And so it's an interesting concept, and maybe the first, like, 3 chapters are interesting because it's just sort of this, like, man musing on different topics. He talks about sports, he talks about science, he talks about general, like, pop culture and how we'll never know who will be, like, the next big thing, because, like, for example, Vincent van Gogh was not famous during his lifetime at all. And he died, and then he started to get fame. But, like, today, he's a household name. But at that point in time, you could never have predicted that this, like, random man from the French countryside would have been the next, like, famous painter that everyone knows his name. And so it was sort of talking about things like that. Like, is Justin Bieber going to be this big, famous person, famous, like, point in time? Or is he just known to everyone right now? In, like, 10 years, no one's gonna know his name. Like, that type of conversation, which is interesting. However, it's not, like, 250 pages interesting. And I was so goddamn bored out of my mind with this man saying, like, sort of nothing, in my opinion, which I actually think is a hot take, because I looked at the reviews online afterward, and it generally sort of has a pretty good rating, but I did not enjoy this book. I thought it was a bad time. If anyone else has read this, can you, like, leave some comments down below, because what did you like it, or do you feel the same? I also think that perhaps, like, maybe this is just not my type of book. But I also don't think that's true. Like, I read nonfiction books. Anyway, we're moving on. Last but not least, for audiobooks, I read Bound, which is Alia Hazelwood's newest Spotify exclusive audiobook. I don't really love that she's doing Spotify exclusives, not gonna lie. I hate when there's books that are exclusive to one thing, because then you have to buy it there. And, fun fact for you, I don't have Spotify anymore. I deleted that because, you know why. You know why we hate Spotify. Anyway, before I deleted Spotify, I listened to this audiobook. You get free audiobooks on Spotify, which is great, whatever. Spotify sucks, and I don't want to pay for it anymore. So I did listen to this right before I deleted it at December. Bound is Alia Hazelwood's newest fantasy, romantasy, short audiobook. It was very short. I think I listened to it in maybe like 4 or 5 hours. Like, it was very quick. One morning, one sitting. It was great. I ate it up. It was so fun. Okay. As always, I don't remember the names of the characters, but our main girl is hired on by this, like, sort of spooky man, to help with this, like, archival counterfeit book recreation project. And so she's slowly learning why he asked her to do this and what it's for, but it's all sort of like mafia vibes, sort of sketchy, but he also definitely has some sort of supernatural thing going on, which we will find out about. It is vampires, you are right! Or, like, vampire Jason. I actually don't remember if he was called a vampire or not. I just remember them being like, he's like, well, we don't call ourselves that. Basically, he's just, like, this hot ancient man. It was great. Lots of, like, academic, not really rivals, but, like, working alongside each other, two lovers. And also, like, the hurt comfort trope, and also, like, a protective bodyguard trope situation. What else did it have? It was delicious. I ate it up. It was great. Definitely recommend. Go read it. So as I said, I read a lot this month. I think in total it was 16 books. That includes all the audiobooks. So first, I'm going to start off with some of the really short ones that I read. I actually think I'm going to do a video talking about, like, short little winter books, if you're looking for some winter short books. I like reading short books in winter because I don't have an attention span, as previously mentioned. So this is what I read. English Understand Wool. This, I don't know why, I feel like I see this book everywhere. No joke, it's like 30 pages, and they're really short. It's fine. I thought it was interesting, but it's sort of like the lead up for a story, which I think is the problem with a lot of novellas, or short stories like this, because what makes a short story and what makes a novella, I don't really know, and maybe I should research that a bit more, because I feel like short stories really believe in me wanting more, and not particularly always in a good way. I feel like this story had almost nothing happening to it, and then you finally get to the end, and you're like, ooh, this is going somewhere, this is interesting, and it ends, and now there's literally nothing else you can do about it. There's no story. That's it. And so the English Understand Wool is about this woman, and you're sort of hearing, well, I guess she's 18, so she's like a young girl, or 17 or something like that. And we're hearing her story from her perspective through, like, diary entries / letters to her editor or publisher. So we find out that she has this book deal, and we're slowly starting to figure out what's going on. So it's a bit of a mystery, with like a thieving involved, and she's very wealthy, and she's like all over sort of Europe, India, Middle East area. She's just like moving around. So there's like she's in Paris at the Ritz, and then she's in like Dubai, and then she's just all over. And so you're slowly getting little pieces of this story. So I thought it was really interesting, but yeah, I got to the end and I was really disappointed it ended. In a different vein, I read The Woods at Midwinter, which is by the same lady who wrote Piranesi and Mr. Norrell and Doctor Strange, whatever that book is called. I thought this was a waste of paper. There's not many books that I say that about. This book, I'm not joking, yet again, was maybe 20 pages of story and then 20 pages of like author's note about why she wrote this story. And the author's note was more interesting than the book itself. The book itself is not even a story. It's about a girl going into the woods and then like nothing happens. Like, I don't know. I don't get this one. It's not for me. Hot take perhaps, but I was not having a good time. I wish there was more. I wanted more. Next, I have Night Sky with Exit Wounds, which is a poem collection by Ocean Vuong. I really like his other novels. I've never read his poetry before, but I did go see him as a speaker at the Edinburgh Book Festival, I think 2 years ago now, maybe 3. And so I bought one of his poetry books because I was able to get it signed, which was very cute. And I'm just really not a big poetry person, I guess. I did like it. My problem with poetry is I think you're really supposed to, like, sit with the poem, and you're really supposed to, like, just not read it front to back, and that's what I'm a front to back reader. I'm reading the whole thing in one sitting. And so they were good, and I would read one, and I would try to, like, sit and digest with it a little bit, but overall, I was like, they're not for me, I think, maybe. Poetry's just maybe not for me. I think I'm like a 1 poem a month type of person, not a poetry book. I don't know. So I liked some of them, and in general, I just wasn't having a great time, perhaps. But they were good. I remember really liking one of the ones towards the end. Anyway, then I read Winter in Sokcho, which I also feel like I see a lot on the internet. I see lots of people talking about it. It is set in Korea on the coast, I want to say the west coast, in winter, sort of near the border to North Korea, and it's about this girl who, like, lives and works in a sort of, like, remote B&B on this coastal town. It's, like, a very small fishing village, and this French man comes to the B&B, and he is a comic book writer, and he is staying at the B&B while she is there, and they have this sort of, like, weird, almost romance. I don't think this is a spoiler, because I feel like it's literally, that is the plot. It starts pretty immediately, and I just didn't feel like anything was really happening, and I feel like it's a type of genre of book that I've read a bit now. I feel like there's a handful of, like, Japanese authors that I've read that write stories like these that are sort of like, they're more about, it's just like everyday life, and it's this sort of romance, and it's very, like, realistic, and I find that so intensely boring because I'm living life also. And so I don't find that exciting at all. I want something fantasy to happen, or some, like, interesting thoughts. And I think the point of these books is to, like, ruminate in your own thoughts, which is fine. But, like, I didn't feel like I was having any interesting thoughts from this book. I don't know. But it's very short. I think it's 90 pages. So quick, done in a flash. But yeah, I just really felt like there's no plot. There's no arc to it, in my opinion, and then the ending is crazy, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but is the whole book just for the ending? Like, that also sort of pisses me off. Anyway, so I didn't love that one either. But one more short one I have for you is Thronhedge by T. Kingfisher. I have been really into T. Kingfisher recently. I've been trying to read all of her books. And I just picked up Thronhedge. I didn't actually realize this was a short one, but it is like maybe 150 pages, and it's really cute. It is a sort of like Sleeping Beauty retelling, I guess. And it is from the perspective of this like little frog fairy girl, which is so fun. And so it's got knights in it, it's got a tower, it's got spooky woods, and it's about this little, it's a retelling sort of like on its head version of Sleeping Beauty, because our little frog fairy girl is guarding the tower that Sleeping Beauty is sleeping in, but perhaps we should leave Sleeping Beauty be. And I thought it was really good. It's really short, but it has this full arc, it has a full plot going on, and I really enjoyed it, so I definitely recommend it. I am hoping to read some of her other books this month, so we shall see how that goes. Next, I read Someone You Could Build a Nest In, which may be the weirdest book I read this year, but actually it's not, because I have another one I'm going to tell you about. I don't know why I read so many weird books this month, but it was great. Someone You Could Build a Nest In is a standalone, really weird fantasy novel. It's got a main character who is basically like an amorphous blob witch woman creature monster who lives in the woods, and it's sapphic, and I really don't know what else to say about it because I think you just need to pick it up and go for the ride that it's on. But it's so fun, and I think my favorite parts of it was that it is written, the main character is very, I think, autistic coded, but also very physically disabled coded, and I thought that was really interesting. I think the author did that on purpose. It did say that the author is disabled in the back of the book, but I don't know what disability he has, but I think it was such an interesting way to portray that, because the whole like beginning setup that when you're getting to know this main character, this like weird blob lady, it's talking about like trying to get your body into shape and to work normally like a normal human, and trying to interact in social settings like a normal person type of thing. And I just thought it was really like nailing it on the head, but in such a creative way that I found it so fun and so interesting to look at life that way as a person who is not physically disabled. So yeah, I found it very fun and very cute. So that was delightful. Now, the other insanely weird book that I read this month, I need you to read. I need you to read both of those, actually. These, actually, I think almost every book, besides the short books that I read this month, all of the other books that I read this month were 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this. So my other really weird one is called The Starving Saint. And in 3 words, it's cannibalism, medieval knights, saints. I don't even know where to start with this one. I feel like I really enjoyed it because the plot is so weird. And the concept is so weird. I felt like it almost had like a pacing problem or something though, because I was having a really hard time like getting into it and like sort of wanting to read more. But overall I did enjoy it. Like I finished the book and I was like, that was a wild ride, 10 out of 10. But yeah, okay, so the plot is we have 3 different characters that we're getting perspectives from, that it does switch between a lot, which I found a bit confusing as well. I didn't think those were super clearly separated. But we have 3 different characters. Don't ask me their names, I don't remember, but we have, okay, actually, Servoin, who is this lady knight who is super loyal to the king. We'll find out more about her, but like that's her main thing, is swinging a knife around, swinging the sword around for her king. She does whatever he says. Then we have Fasine, who is they call her the Mad Woman, but basically she's up in this tower of the castle and she has previously created a miracle and they want her to create another miracle. They want her to create food because the castle that they are in is currently under siege for months on end now, and the whole surrounding neighborhood has been brought into the castle walls. There's extra people everywhere. It's super cramped and crowded. They're really worried about disease, but also the food is run out. and the water supply had gone bad. But somehow she's fixed the water supply, so now they're like, you need to do another miracle. We need you to find food somewhere, because all of our supplies have been eaten already. So that's Fossine. And then we have the other girl, and I can't remember her name, but the other girl is this, like, little scrappy, like, street gremlin type of woman who was previously from a different place that was also sacked and overrun, and now she had to frantically move here, so she has no one that she knows here, but she has slowly worked her way into this castle to become a servant of sorts. But during the siege, she has now making her own way by storing food to the side for herself and looking out for herself, basically, amongst all this madness. And she's trying to figure out how to get out or what to do. She's able to catch rats, and, like, she's selling the rats off. So she's very crafty. So those are our three main characters, and yeah, the main plot is that they're under siege, and they don't know how long they'll be under siege, but definitely infinitely more, and they've sent missives out to try to get someone to come help them and try to get backup, but no one's responding, and no one's come. They're trying to figure out if they could sneak out the back down the cliffside, but, like, that's not gonna work. So what are they going to do? And they have to turn to cannibalism pretty quickly, but how do you turn to cannibalism without letting everyone know that's what's happening? You have to turn over the human has died. You gotta make that into meat. Who's gonna do that? Do we have qualms about it? But it's not just this historical fiction, if you will. There's a fantasy element about it, and it's weird, and I don't really know what else to say about this book because I don't want to spoil anything, but it was such a wild ride from start to finish, and it's very clearly a pandemic book, and I think that's very funny as well. Not as in there isn't a pandemic in it, but it was written in 2020, and it gives that insane frenetic vibe, I guess. So I absolutely loved that. It is truly wild. I didn't even talk about the main point of it yet because I don't want to spoil the main point. Anyway, you should read it. Next, I read Starling House, which is a Alex E. Harrow book, and I've actually never read any of her books before, but I feel like I hear her name a lot, and I really enjoyed this, and have now read some of her other short books, and delicious. I will be reading all of her books in this new year. Starling House is everything you want from a spooky little fantasy novel. It has a spooky house on the hill. It has very weird man that lives in it by himself, but he's young, and guess what, he's hot. And our main character, who I obviously, as always, never remember the main character's name, she lives in this little town with her brother in a motel, and they're very, very broke, and she's just trying to make her way in life and support her brother and his dreams, and ends up going to work as a housekeeper at this man's house because she keeps having dreams about the house, and it's just sort of like drawing her towards it, like any good gothic novel house. I thought this book was so fun. It's set in Appalachia, so it has this Appalachia vibes. We got the mines of the Appalachian town. It's like a backwater town in Kentucky or Tennessee. I think it was Kentucky. So it's got this sort of like southern vibe going on with it, and this like southern fake kindness. And I just really enjoyed it. It also touched a lot on racism, which I think is refreshing because I feel like there's a lot of books that are set in the South and just sort of gloss over that and never even mention it, where it's like, no, racism is very prevalent. You should mention it in your fantasy story, perhaps. Maybe. So I thought that was very well done. I liked it a lot. And I thought the characters were very interesting. The plot was very fun. And the whole, like, gothic mystery of it all was delicious. And the romance was also really cute. Last but not least, I have Uprooted. I don't know what to say about this one. I got thoughts. I got lots of thoughts. And like, I don't know. Let's start with the plot. So, first off, I want to say this book is really long. I think it was 500 pages. I don't really like long books. I think you know this about me. But I just think every long book I've ever read, I feel like 100 pages could have been cut out anyway. Or it could have been split into 2 books. It always is like that. Every time I've read a long book, that's what I feel. It's what I feel. So, the plot of this story. is that our main character she's just like a mousy, normal little girl, and she's grown up in this valley near a forest with a wizard who lives in a tower in the forest nearby. And every 19 or so years, this wizard man comes down from the forest, from his tower, and he chooses one girl, and he takes her up to his tower. And he is infinitely old, and he never ages. And he takes these girls, and then after 19 years, he releases them back. And the girls always come back, and they're super fancy and posh now, and they don't really want anything to do with their tiny little town in this village, and they're very well educated now, and they leave. And they always say, oh, like, don't worry, it was nothing weird or romantic between us. Nothing happened untoward, but I'm going to the city now. And she leaves. So every 19 years this happens, and it just so happens that our main character, of course, was born in a year that means she will be chosen. One of the girls in her cohort will be chosen. So her and her friends all grow up knowing that one of them will be chosen by this man and disappear and then sort of like vanish out of their lives forever. So it's sort of sad, sort of weird, hanging over their lives, their whole lives. But she's so sure, so certain that she will not be chosen because she's just normal and she's boring. And he always chooses very fantastic girls who are gorgeous and very good at everything and very proper and prim and whatever. And she knows that her best friend is the hottest, the best, the most culinarily skilled girl in the whole villages, and she will be chosen. And so the day comes, and he's looking at her friend, but then he chooses her. Of course, it's the fantasy book. Of course, this is what's going to happen. And so she gets chosen. So that's the setup for this book. What else can I say without spoiling it? The woods are haunted. There's something going on with the woods. There's always weird disappearances in the woods. There's creatures that come out of the woods. The woods are cursed. The woods are bad. And so we sort of have this, like, Beauty and the Beast element, sort of have this, like, Sleeping Beauty element of, like, the woods, they're coming for you. And so she gets whisked away off to his tower. She doesn't get to say goodbye to her family. She never gets to see her village friends ever again. And she hates him, and it's horrid, and she doesn't want to be there. Very Beauty and the Beast style, right? And she's up there and slowly realizes he's, like, trying to teach her magic. And she's like, I'm not magical. I'm just a normal girl. And he's like, no, you are magical. And so he's trying to teach her magic, but they're just like really butting heads. Like, she hates him and he is like, you are so obstinate and annoying, and I'm required by law to teach you magic and you just like won't listen, so what's going on? And so they're fighting, but it's all for the enemies to lovers plotline, of course. Nom, 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 nom. Delicious, right? So the first half of this book, I'm having a great time. I was like, this is so fun. It's so like whimsy, princessy Disney storyline of like, oh, she gets stolen away to a tower. They hate each other, but they'll love each other. And I thought the world building was really interesting. But then about halfway through, the plot just like explodes and everything gets insane. And I just feel like there was too much going on and it didn't really add up to make sense for me by the end, because basically she is learning magic, and how do I do this without I don't want to spoil it for you guys, because I did enjoy it. I don't think it's the worst book. I think I gave it 4 stars or 4.5 type of thing. Like, I really did like it, but I feel like it has this glaringly crazy problem of being far too long and far too much going on, because halfway through the book, we leave the world that we've been spending this entire time on, and like the plot trajectory of where we're going with this like romance story in the woods, magic, something's wrong with the woods, right? Like, those are like the 3 things that we're like focused on in the first half: that she needs to learn magic and it's not going well and they hate each other, that they're probably going to end up together, and that thirdly, the woods are messed up and they need to, something's going to happen with that, right? But halfway through, suddenly we've completely left the woods for reasons I will not explain and gone to another area in the world, which I did like this world building, but it felt like a very like book 2 sudden leap, or like a different book. It felt like a completely different book all of a sudden halfway through, because then all of a sudden we're at this, like, royal court, and we're doing all these royal court things, and there's all of this stuff, but in the back of our minds, we also still have the whole problem with the creepy woods, and also this romance that we need to wrap up and conclude. And then they, like, do sort of wrap it up. But I just feel like there was too many elements going on, and it did not make sense, because we suddenly have this, like, deep fantasy element about the woods that I will not be explaining further because I don't want to spoil. But basically, we find out why the woods are evil, right? It's pretty obvious that's where it would head. But the reason the woods are evil is not really clear / doesn't make sense, and also isn't consistent across people affected by the woods. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. So the book ends, and I'm like, dude, what just happened? Like, I felt like I had whiplash, because it was just like, the first half of the book is, like, very nice, like, steady pace. It was interesting. I was, like, constant, like, oh my god, I can't put this down, it's so good. And then you get halfway through, and it's suddenly, like, the entire plot has just been blown up. And, like, where am I? And what's going on? And what are we focusing on anymore? And we slowly start threading everything back together, but it was very messy. I don't know. Maybe I need to read it again. But anyway, she has another book called Spinning Silver, which has almost an identical cover, but it's blue instead of the other cover is yellow, right? Apparently these books are not related per se, they're just by the same author, they're not in a series or nothing, but I do think maybe they're both, like, vaguely fairy tale retelling. I think that's my theory. I haven't started Spinning Silver yet, but it would make sense if that one was sort of Sleeping Beauty, and then this yellow one was Beauty and the Beast, I guess. So we shall see, because I plan on reading Spinning Silver next month, and if I have the same problem, then I have the same problem. But I did think it was such a creative and interesting retelling, and I really was enjoying this, like, valley with these woods and this tower, but then I felt like the world suddenly became so much larger, and that really, like, threw me out of it, and made me enjoy it less. It was just too much. It was just too much going on. So anyway, that is what I read in December. And I really do recommend those last, like, 4 books I read. They were spectacular, so delicious. Next month, I am planning on reading, where is it? So I have this new book app. I think I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but it's called Pagebound. It's pretty new. It's just recently come out, and I like it way more than Goodreads and Storygraph. I think Storygraph and Pagebound, if they were, like, merged together, would be great, because I don't love how black and white Storygraph is, and I also feel like Storygraph is so stats focused that it really loses the, like, connection social media aspect of book apps that I like, where Pagebound is so community focused and very colorful, which I really enjoy. But they have this really fun element that is in your library section. It's called Plan, and you can plan what you want to read for each month, so you're able to, like, put in a bunch of books, and then it shows you them all, and if you finish them or not, perhaps stressing me out. But these are my plans for January, this month, right now, that I am reading right now and or planning to read. So let's get into it. I'm hoping to read the What Moves the Dead trilogy short novella series by T. Kingfisher. I'm just waiting for it to come from the library. I've been waiting forever. I'm also hoping to read When Among Crows duology, which is another novella set from Veronica Roth. I am hoping to read The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid, because we love Ava Reid. I'm hoping to read The Book of Blood and Roses, which is an ARC that I've recently gotten from NetGalley, so you will hear about that soon. I am reading Cold Enough for Snow, which is a short story. I'm reading a International Booker Prize winner, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, which is what I'm reading right now, and that's why I just read it off of my bedside table. I'm reading For the Wolf, Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and a few more that I'm not really sure if I'm going to get to is Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews, A Recipe for Unexpected Afterlife, The Thursday Murder Club, and Half a Soul. So that is my plan for January. As always, very like wintry themed books because I'm a very seasonal reader. If you've watched my other video about sort of like book goals, my ins and outs for booktube this year, you will note that I'm trying to actually read less books this year. So overall, I'm trying to read like 4 books a month. This month is definitely going to be more than that because I'm reading so many novellas, and to me, like, that series of novellas is like equal to 1 book. So we shall see. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know what you guys read this December and what you're planning on reading this year. I would love some book recommendations. Bye!